Blog Talk Radio.
Into Viatorian Voices, Conversations on the Way, our periodic get-togethers here on the podcast to talk about things going on in and around the Viatorian community. Hi, everyone. This is Jim Mitchell, and always pleased to be here to serve as host and kind of open the gateway to meet some of the great people in the Viatorian community. And today, of course, is no different. We're going to be talking with Father John Van Wiel, who, if you are around the Viatorians in any way, shape, or form. Many of the high schools in the Midwest, you may have encountered Father Van Wiel at some point. We'll talk a little bit about his history, but today in our recent series, we want to talk a little bit more about his hobbies and interests and get to know Father Van Wiel a little bit better. So first of all, Father Van Wiel, really great to talk to you today, and I want to say thanks for you taking the time to join me this morning. It's going to be fun to talk to you.
Thank you, Jim. It'd be good to talk to you, too.
So what a wonderful history you have as a member of the Viatorian community. I believe you professed your first vows in 1960, and you have been ordained well over 50 years now. Tell us a little bit about your history with the Viatorian community, how it came to be, and just a couple of the high points for you along the way.
I think basically I became a Viatorian because of the example of the Viatorians who taught me in high school. I always found them to be very open, very welcoming, and very much in touch with what they were doing. They were good teachers and good men. And somehow I felt a call to the priesthood from when I was a little boy. I used to mention it, and of course every time I did something I wasn't supposed to do, I always got the comment from my mother, "Oh, sure, you want to be a priest." So I didn't talk about that very much, but I think the Viatorians in high school really kind of rang my bell and kind of reaffirmed my desire to be like them. And I didn't want to be a parish priest. Ironically, now I'm in a retirement home, and I'm probably saying Mass 5 times a week, but one of the reasons I didn't want to be a parish priest was I didn't want to preach all the time. So here I am preaching all the time. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be like the Viatorians that taught me. I started off after ordination going to Bishop McNamara in Kankakee, and I taught chemistry and I think some religion classes. I was dean of discipline. I ended up being principal there. And then I was principal for 11 years at Alleman High School in Rock Island. After that, a couple of years in Griffin High School in Springfield, and 25 years at St. Viator High School in Arlington Heights, where again I was department head. I taught chemistry, physical science, earth science, pretty much a lot of the important science classes. That's pretty much my history. Now, since for 10 years now, I've sort of been what they call retired, but I've also been novice director. I did that 3 times, and I was in charge of the retirement home, taking men to doctors and picking up prescriptions, getting their pills ready for them, and that kind of thing. So it's really only the last couple of years I haven't been really active, but still active, saying Mass frequently.
As you connect those dots, they're all Midwest, Illinois specifically. Is that where you grew up then as well?
I did. I grew up in the Quad Cities. Actually, I was a student in Alleman High School in Rock Island, and that was a school I was principal of for 11 years. Interesting,
coming full circle there. So is it those Midwest roots then that led you to what I want to talk about today, which are some of your hobbies? And I know that one in particular is fishing. Was that something you were raised with?
Sort of. I was thinking about it the other day, and I remember I must have been younger than 7 years old, and my mom and dad took me to a lagoon in Moline where that was stocked with bullheads, and I caught some bullheads. And then after that, there wasn't too much opportunity to go fishing. I mean, you had the Mississippi River running by there, but that was not a place that I ever have fished. I think I really got back into a lot of fishing, starting maybe in 1 year in the seminary when we went to a Maryland bay and I caught an eel, and then to that caught 100 crabs using the eel, cut pieces of the eel as bait. But then after that, when I went to Kankakee, there was a farm pond that had a lot of bluegills and bass in it, and people got to know me, and they invited me to go fishing there. So I did a lot of fishing there. And then my brother, who was an anesthesiologist, a doctor, he bought a condo in Breckenridge, Colorado. And so I used to go there with my mom and dad every summer for, I don't know how many years. And one time he bought me an event with a fisherman in a particular area, kind of like a guide. And I had been fishing with a rod and reel all the time, using basically different kinds of lures. And I was not a guy who just sat on the bank and fished. I had a kind of hunt for fish. I walked the bank casting, and he said to me, well, you can't be a real fisherman unless you're a fly fisherman. So he introduced me to fly fishing. Well, if you've ever tried that, it's kind of risky in the beginning because you're hooking yourself on the back of the head or in your shoulder or in your hat, and you really get the rhythm of it. But once I started, I got very, very successful with fly fishing, to the point where I'd go out in the morning and catch my limit. And finally, my mom and dad and other relatives said, John, please don't bring those fish back. We're getting sick and tired of eating them. So please don't bring them back anymore. So I didn't. But I caught a lot of fish. I caught a lot of good rainbow trout, brook trout, brown trout.
Just curious, when you mentioned your approach to fishing and hunting the fish and, walking the shore and such, I think some people look at fishing as a moment to relax a little bit. It sounds like you took a more active role. I mean, was your attraction, was it nice to just be out in the quiet? Did you like to sort of be more aggressive about it? Was it activity? Was it relaxation? What kept you going back out?
Well, it was success, one of the things. I mean, that I was catching a lot of fish. The challenge of it, being outside, the beauty, like out in Colorado, where you were in the mountains, the fresh air, all of those things. And then he later on bought a home in Lake of the Ozarks, and we did a lot of boat fishing out there. So we were catching more, different variety of fish, bass and pike, catfish, bluegills, all kinds of fish down there. So again, a different kind of fishing. Now we were not using the fly rods, we were using the casting rods and going to different places. But again, we just didn't sit there. We kept casting different areas and moving to different areas and so on. The exercise, too.
Right.
I mean, that was important.
Yeah, well, so, and of course, as always, our time goes by so fast. There are a couple of things I want to touch on. You talked about the Ozarks. You talked about Colorado. Do you enjoy getting out, walking in nature? Do you bird watch? Do you look at trees or different types of plants? Are you sort of one of those who enjoys being out just in nature to kind of walk and observe as well?
Well, I do. I mean, I think that's one of the main ways that I get in touch with God. We have here in Arlington Heights a large extent of land, and we have many, many trees planted on them. And some are very old. They're over 100 feet tall. And just sometimes to go out and sit and see the breeze moving the trees and the clouds going by and so on, sometimes it helps me to pray and to realize the presence of God and how fortunate we are to live in that type of a setting. In many ways that God has blessed us.
One of the things you have done, and I wonder if it's, as we talk about the fishing, being outdoors, nature, you've also become, and you have to tell me when you started this, a very active painter. I think you focus on watercolors. Was that hobby sort of an outcropping of your love of nature?
It could be. Many of the paintings that I do are of landscapes and different things in nature. But I got started. I was going on a 30-day retreat, and I said to myself, I can't pray all the time. I've got to have something to fill in some of the time. So I thought, well, been kind of fiddling with watercolors for a little bit, haven't done much of it. And so I brought some watercolor paper and some paints and brushes and stuff and started doing some paintings of the things in the surrounding. And people saw what I was doing, and some of them started asking, can we have that painting? Can I have that painting? And I thought, geez, I didn't think they were good enough to, that somebody would really want them. And that really kind of started me moving on stuff. So when I got back from that, then I started doing painting in earnest. And I started reading some magazines and books and so on. I had no training and picked up different ways to paint and techniques and so on. So that started 33 years ago. Wow. So I've been painting for a long time. And now during COVID, being stuck at home, I probably have done 150 paintings during that time alone.
Yeah, and I know that there's had been on display at the Province Center as well. You had a kind of an exhibition there. Just like fishing, is this relaxing for you? Is it like your nature? It helps you connect with God a little bit. Is this your escape from everything else? What is it that makes painting so attractive to you?
I think the main thing is it challenges my brain. People don't realize that there are a lot of different techniques in watercolor painting. It's probably the hardest one. If you make a mistake, you're done. You can't really cover it up. And trying to figure out the colors and the blending of colors, the kind of brushes to use, whether you should use wet paper, dry paper, what kind of paper should you use? Should it be rough? Should it be hot press or cold press? There's just a lot of things that keeps you thinking and so on, and the time passes very quickly. It's not so much, I don't think, a peripheral experience as it is an intellectual one. I'm trying to find a subject to paint. I mean, I've done so many now that I'm thinking, now what? What can I paint that I haven't done already? So,
well, with all of the nature you have around us and other places, I'm sure you'll continue to find subjects to paint. But Father Van Wiel, we're kind of out of time here now, which is very unfortunate. I enjoyed the conversation quite a bit, and I want to thank you for being with us and encourage everyone who has the opportunity to kind of track down some of these paintings, some of the artwork done by Father Van Wiel, and take a look. And first of all, make sure, too, to thank him for the many years he served the Viatorian community. And it is the community, of course, as we always say, that proclaims Jesus Christ and his gospel and raises communities where faith is lived, deepened, and celebrated. Founded by Venerable Louis Curbs, Viatorians are professed brothers and priests and lay associates, striving to do everything well so that through us Jesus may be adored and loved. On behalf of the Viatorian community, I'm Jim Mitchell. Thanks to Father John Van Wiel for being with us. Thanks to all of you for listening, and we look forward to talking with you again soon.